And you're welcome back. Now, gambling has become a pervasive activity in Nigeria, with approximately 60 million citizens aged between 18 and 40 engaging in sports betting. This surge is largely attributed to the accessibility of online betting platforms, allowing individuals to place wagers conveniently for their mobile or from their mobile devices. Now, the industry has seen significant financial growth, with revenue in the gambling market projected to reach $3.63 billion within 2025. Now, despite its popularity, gambling poses substantial risks, including addiction and also financial ruin. Now, reports have highlighted cases where individuals driven to by compulsion betting habits, compulsive betting habits, have depleted their savings, incurred debt, and experienced severe psychological distress. In response to these challenges, Nigerian authorities have implemented regulatory measures. The National Lottery Regulation Commission oversees lotteries, while state-level licenses are required for compliance with regional regulators. However, the rapid expansion of online gambling presents ongoing challenges in enforcement and also regulation.
And so joining us today to delve deeper into this pressing issue is Mr. Koiki Tunde, is the head of our sports desk at News Central Television. Also joining us here is Dr. Bojubola Abiri. She is a psychiatrist and also an assistant lecturer with LASU. There we go. And of course, we have with us Mr. Peter Paul. Believe it or not, he's a comedian, hence his name, I think, and also is an entrepreneur. Mr. Paul, thanks for joining us. Dr. Abiri, thank you for joining us. And also, Mr. Koiki, as always, it's a pleasure seeing you with all the guns. Let me see your guns. There we go, that's the guns. I mean, let me start with you, Tunde. Could you just provide insight into the current prevalence of gambling in Nigeria? I mean, it's all thanks to being sports fanatic. I wouldn't just leave it at football now, because I understand racing is there, rugby is there, basketball, it's endless. Your take.
Well, thank you very much, guys. To be honest, gambling is something that has existed since time immemorial. Since I think the first documented cases of gambling we go way back into the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, where wagers were placed on archery contests, on horse racing, and things like that. But with the advent of modern technology and the advances in society, gambling has become more widespread across the globe. Now in Nigeria here, gambling is pretty much well set up. There are over 50 different betting companies across Nigeria, and the prevalence of gambling is quite worrisome. I think a study by a consultant psychiatrist in 2021, I think his name is Professor Chinyere Agbocha, he's a consultant psychiatrist and a senior lecturer at Imo State University, actually put the prevalence of gambling by school-age children as almost 60%. Now, there's also a study that also, I think in the NOI poll, that says at least 36% of Nigerians have engaged in gambling at some point in time in their lives. So the question really is that gambling itself is not the issue. It's gambling addiction and the issues that it raises that have now become a major menace to society. You highlighted a few of them. Like, I mean, there people will be incurring debt. There's violence. There's sexual violence. I mean, even women also engage in gambling as well. And if these women cannot pay the debts that they owe, you and I can imagine how they're supposed to repay those debts. Now, there's also children and students who are using their school fees to engage in betting. It's this idea, this mentality, this belief that, you know, the next big thing is just around the corner. If you keep placing higher stakes, if you keep putting more money on it, you might just hammer, as we'll say it in Nigerian parlance, and pretty much settle all your debts. But the gambling itself is not the problem. It's the prevalence of addiction that has become a major societal menace that is the problem.
Now, Koiki, now you're a betting man. I mean, sorry, you're a sports guy. How has it actually helped sports? I'm saying that because we see plenty of betting companies embrace sports, and it actually seems to be doing good. I want to answer that. I want you to answer that before I come to the studio here and our guests in the studio. Well, has it done well for sports in Nigeria, seeing that the authorities might not be focused on perhaps helping the sports develop?
Well, has it done well for sports? Some would say yes, some would say no, because a lot of these betting companies some of them, not all, some of them have actually plowed their profits back into Nigerian sports, sponsoring events, sponsoring competitions, sponsoring athletes. And some will say that that money some way finds its way back into the sport ecosystem. But some will also argue that that money is just a fraction of what these betting companies make, that what they make is pretty much a king's fortune, that if they plowed as much as 20 or 30% back into sports in Nigeria, it would change the landscape tremendously. And if they also plowed just maybe as much as 5 or 10% of that, what they make, into combating gambling addiction, it would change the societal narrative as we currently know it.
Well, Koiki, thanks for that. Let's come into the studio. We have Dr. Abiri here and, of course, Mr. Peter Paul, right? And I would like to start with you, Doctor, and just really talk about, you know, the impact of and the influence of gambling in the landscape. This used to be very minute. There used to be small corner shops with their leaflets then, and they would play pool. They call it pool at the time. And now it's gone so far that technology has also played into this. The prevalence and its impact on our younger generation. Your take.
So,
Doctor. Yes.
Well, so, like Koiki said when he was speaking, gambling itself is not a problem. Gambling, also known as gaming, is not a problem. And of course, it has, you know, a high impact for tourism, tax returns. A lot of people get a lot of thrills and just generally enjoy gambling. However, unfortunately, sometimes some good things come with bad sides as well. And so what we found over time is that quite a number of people have this recurrent and persistent maladaptive pattern of gambling that affects not just their personal lives, but also affects, you know, their relationships. It has legal issues. It causes legal issues for them. It also has financial implications. And so people are struggling with not just being able to gamble and let it go. They are, you know, they are intertwined. It's difficult to separate themselves from the act. And when I see clients who have gambled, you don't even see them because they have a problem with paying back funds. They come when they are suicidal because they've gone past depression, they've gone past use of substances of abuse to cope and try to, you know, deal with what is going on. They borrowed money, and it's become such a dire situation. I remember one time that I had this young man who came in with a gambling disorder. So gambling addiction, compulsive gambling, pathological gambling. He came in, and by the time we sat down and I had this conversation with him, I'm like, if you had to look at how much you've put into gambling, how much would you say? He said over 50 million naira. Wow. And then I said, okay, so what do you have in investments, you know, savings? And he said nothing. And so I said to him, when was the last time that you gambled? And he laughed. And he said, on my way here. So he came to check himself into the facility because he was suicidal. But you can see how deep that problem has been for him as an individual.
When does it cross the line from just being something that you participate in and hoping to get, you know, suck a lock, you know, and a free, you know, blow money. So it's a bit of stack to when it's now an addiction.
So gambling used to be classified as an impulse control disorder, where the individual had a problem controlling their impulse. It still is an impulse control disorder, except that now it is classified as an addictive disorder. So gambling is also looked at with, you know, when we look at drug addiction, pornography, and all the other addictions that we have. And there are a couple of criteria that look at or that are classified when you want to move from it's just being something that people do for fun to being problematic. So first of all, you look at the intensity, the frequency, and the distress that it causes. So for instance, the individual has a compulsion to gamble, regardless of what they've lost, what they owe, what relationships are affected. They really can't be bothered. They just need to do it. There's also something called chasing losses. I didn't do it the last time. Maybe if I did it like this, again, there's that, you know, intention to continue to use it. Then there's tolerance. Oh, the last time I did this, I used 5,000 naira. Maybe the next time I do it, I'll get, you know, I'll put in 10,000 naira. There's tolerance. So tolerance also continues to increase. And of course, when there is detrimental effects to finance, legal, personal relationships, even work suffers. And the individual can see all of the damage that is happening, but they still cannot control themselves. Then it has become a disorder.
It's a very strange kind of addiction because for other addictions, you can see either tangible or maybe mental, what do you call it now, effects to the human mind, or maybe, you know, but in this case, it's you giving out money. How does it increase your dopamine?
Yes.
What exactly happens?
Well, so clearly there's a center in the brain that is called the reward system, or the reward center, which is also what gets a thrill when you either use, drugs, watch pornography, eat food, or even if it's sex addiction. And so it's almost the same with gambling. It's the same pathway. And so what the individuals find is that every time they want to play, every time they put, in a bet, every time they gamble, every time they're waiting for the results, there's a release of dopamine. And of course, that dopamine is an expectation of more hits. But of course, when there's no win, it crashes. And the only thing that the individual thinks about is, I can still put in something, I can still continue to chase in the hope. Again, it's a risk.
It's not the money they're chasing, it's not the win, it's that
so
hit.
It's a thrill, yeah. So it's the thrill that comes with it, and, well, this hope that something will come of it.
Let me talk to Peter Paul here, not P squared, no relations. Aja 1, Aja 2. We're seeing a situation where, I think everybody knows what that means.
Yeah.
Right? This thing where the dogs, research, I'm not a betting man. In any case, we also see where entertainment is beginning to also be broaching or, coming together here, merging. We see betting companies endorsing people like you, comedians, and asking them to, pull people along. What are there any moral regulations for people in entertainment when it comes to betting, or whether they have responsibilities as to the people that they are giving out this information to tell them to go bet some more? What's your take?
Well, for me, I feel like it's a selfish purpose. Deep down, them promoting these things, these colleagues or comedians of mine, mostly the skit makers, are the people who promote these betting companies. You get? So most of them do it for their own selfish gain because they have something to gain from it. So there's nothing like sure odd. They deceive you and tell you there's a sure odd, this one, once you play it, a hit, you get, like she said, it's an addiction. People have lost their houses because of gambling. People have lost their marriages.
So to the ambassadors of these betting companies, I mean, is there any responsibility or any sense of guilt that comes to them noticing that people are actually going, spending their kids' school fees or even their feeding money for the family?
Yeah, like I said, it's a personal gain, you understand? For me, if I'm doing it, I don't care what happens to you.
Do you bet?
I have. I won't lie. I have, boy. It's not like...
It's not an addiction.
It's not an addiction for me.
So there is such a thing where people actually can engage in it responsibly.
Responsible gaming.
Yeah, responsibly.
Yeah, but in responsibility and responsible gaming, let me come to you, Koiki. There's also the issue of underage gambling, right? I know, you're shaking your head, same as me, right? There's also an issue of underage gambling, right? And there's no monitoring, there's no controlling of this fiscal and even online gambling activities that happens. What are those challenges that that they face, and how best can the regulators be more ironclad about how these operators go about their business and activities?
Judith, it's a major problem, major issue that even the companies themselves are dealing with. A few times I've had to walk past or walk into these outlets, and you can clearly see that some of these people have no place being here. Now, there are signs on the wall that said that people under the ages of 18 should not be in this facility, but you still see them all the same. Another way, another class, for example, in the clubs abroad, if you do not have an ID showing that you're 18 and above, you cannot get in. In these places, nobody's asking for an ID, nobody's asking questions. All they want is your money. Now, we now begin to see that pattern where I talked about almost 60% of school-age children are now involved in some kind of betting or the other. Now, these some of these companies have done their best. They go out doing sensitization activities. They go to schools. They go to universities. They go to churches, mosques, make major gatherings where they can find young people and also try and warn them about the dangers of about betting. But it is not enough. But another thing that we haven't even talked about is the fact that even betting itself is also destroying the very sport that is supposed to be supporting. With the rise of sure odds, or do I say these Eastern syndicates who are trying to fix matches. Match fixing is now a major scandal, a major problem all across the world. You find some of these faceless syndicates look for individual players or teams and ask them to do something, maybe fall down at a certain time in the game or kick the ball $1 to throw in and they promise you millions. Now, when they do that, these players make a tremendous amount of money. They now look for other people to get into the game, thereby destroying the integrity of the sport. So it's you know that Chinese symbol of a dragon eating its own tail? It's exactly, that is exactly what we're seeing. But the issue of underage gambling is a major, major problem that the authorities need to be doing something about. They cannot leave it in the hands of the companies themselves. They will do what they can, but at the end of the day, they're a business. They want to make money. They don't really care who brings the money as long as their vaults are filled. The National Orientation Agency, they should get involved. Religious organizations, they should get involved. But another interesting thing that you find that this gambling at times, it can be seasonal. Ramadan has started this today. If you have a few people who own betting outlets, they will tell you that business is going to suffer for the next 1 month. So these same people know, as a matter of fact, that what they are doing is wrong. Islam strictly prohibits gambling in any form. So you will see people staying away from gambling for 1 month. But after that 1 month, they go back at it with a gusto, and you now begin to wonder exactly what is going on in their minds.
Well, I thank you for that. When you raised two things, right? The media, the effect of it on the sports, and also the fact that there's also a downtime, meaning that these persons, the participants of this, they understand that this is really bad. But let me come to you, Mr. Peter Paul, and ask about, the media. You're a comedian, right? And so you are right in there when it comes to entertainment. The intersection between the gambling gambling addiction or behavior, right, and our pop culture. Should entertainers, whether it's comedians, musicians, actors, or just influencers, social media influencers, bear some level of responsibility in curtailing the spread of gambling?
Yes.
Because, and the reason why I ask this is because they always say that, oh, I'm not a role model, I'm just doing my job. That should be your responsibility, But why did you say yes?
Why I said yes is because you bringing this thing to your followers, deep down you know that these things are no good. Like I said from onset, it's the selfish gain. They don't care about their followers. Nobody cares. It's just all about the money, just to make the money. But now the problem is there's not even a body like fighting against this thing. Like I've on my own thought about it. You keep doing promoting these betting companies. You keep promoting them, making people feel like you make money from it, whereby it's not that way. Yeah, you will bet. Somebody they will come and tell you have sure odds. There's nothing like sure odds. You can't predict the future. It's football.
Unless you fix it, like Koiki said.
I kind of, I'm a descendant of Dr. Strange.
Except by a flash.
Dr. Obiri, I'm sorry, conclude, please.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So, like I said, you can't predict time. So you cannot tell me that you know that this game will end 2-0. I should come and impute my money into that. That's a waste of investment. Because once that game caught, that's it.
Game caught. The terms are very, very unique. Dr. Obiri, regarding solutions for people who might be addicted, do they need to seek help from facilities, mental institutions, or can they attend to the situation by themselves? And what do regulatory bodies need to do to be able to help people who are addicted to gambling?
So we have a bit of a huge problem on our hands because we have so many things rushing at us at the same time. We have substance abuse, we have, internet addiction.
And that's a thing?
Oh,
I should check myself.
Yeah, it is a thing, and see whether you meet criteria.
Do you know how I get a dopamine hit from just scrolling
All
on
the
TikTok?
likes?
All the likes,
No, I barely post. But just the hits on TikTok, just scrolling, and it feels so good. Oh my God!
Case study right here.
It's a thing. Oh God!
We will be at your facility later.
It feels really good. I don't know what they did to TikTok, but I just scroll and then it just feeds the right thing I need to hear.
Your addiction is showing.
It is.
You were saying.
So if you've never seen the movie The Social Dilemma, I encourage that you see it.
Yeah.
It shows that there's psychology behind everything, and the psychology behind substance abuse, behind pornography, behind all the addictions that we're seeing, including gambling, is the fact that, well, apart from the dopamine release and all of that, is people have what is known as an immediate gratification. They want it now. They can't wait. People can't delay gratification. And so when you say to me that you're going to secondary schools and you're telling children, oh, don't do this, children they're just looking at you like, you're telling me not to do this thing that at the end of the day, in just a few minutes, I probably will be guaranteed this. They're already starting with their video games. They're already giving food out for video games. And it starts with things like video games. The problem is also that, addictions occur in clusters, hand in glove. And so chances are if someone starts with pornography, they're likely to also move to gaming addiction. If they do gaming addiction and after a while it doesn't, so again, tolerance, you start to look for more to get that hit.
Are we positioning our children wrongly? Because when you talked about the games that they play that actually have a system of reward in itself, and that keeps them playing these games, that's what we're doing, isn't it?
So somehow we're setting them up.
We're setting them up.
Yes. And so it's the reason why we must. So again, everything for me always starts at home. From the individuals. Be intentional about what your children are watching, what they're seeing, what they're getting rewarded by. Some children will take their parents' phones and the next morning their parents are screaming and saying, my naira has gone, because the child was buying coins overnight to just, again, feed that thrill. But beyond that, should they get help? For me, awareness and advocacy is the way to go. We must keep talking about it. Because even if you feel like they're not doing it at home, if they get out and they see something, and they do see things, they look around and they see all of these things, they see the adverts. So again, we must keep talking about it, keep educating and informing. Should people get help, early intervention, prompt intervention is much better than waiting till the end of the line. Because like I've said, people will come down with conditions like depression, they'll come down with substance use disorders, and of course, gambling sometimes occurs with other mental health disorders as well.
Right. Koiki was saying that, it's Ramadan. Ramadan Kareem to all of our brothers and sisters, Muslim brothers and sisters who are starting this holy month. May all your prayers and supplication be answered by Allah. Ameen. This month, he said there's going to be a downturn in the economic, stats. Not saying anything to our Muslim brothers and sisters, but also this coincides with Lent as well, the Lent period for the Roman Catholics. So there's still going to be even a downward tilt. So this thing of seeking help, they have help now. Am I not doing the masquerade? There's help. They know it's bad. So how is it, just help me understand, how is it that for like the entire month of Ramadan, the holy month, and also for the month of Lent, the down, and this is going to be down, and then right after they can go back. How is it that they can be able to hold themselves back and then still go back and do it? I don't get it. Just help me. It's my brain can.
So while a significant number of people will be able to hold themselves, some people will still continue to gamble. The numbers definitely will drop. And so it's important to highlight or identify that there are certain factors that predispose people to, gamble. Poverty, ignorance, isolation, loneliness, and celebratory, times of the year. So for instance, maybe Koiki will probably tell us that during Christmas, or during, like when it's dirty December and all that, people want to, or when the, leagues are on and there's a lot of football games on as well.
It goes with the excitement.
Yeah, it goes with the excitement, the festive seasons. However, power is nothing without control. So some people will be controlled. Some people will be able to hold themselves because they have, religious obligations. But then again, once those religious obligations appear to have been lifted, then people will go back.
Koiki, earlier this week, you and I talked about an event that actually was put together here in Lagos that had something to do with regulators, if I'm not mistaken, or stakeholders in the gambling sector coming together to discuss on matters regarding gambling. What was that event about?
I think it was a meeting of, I think it was an African gaming conference or so. I think most of the major betting companies were meeting together regarding charting ways obviously for their own future. I'm not sure whether gambling addiction featured on that conference because we were not invited, so I can't speak on it as conclusively as I'd like. But I just want to applaud what Dr. Abiri said regarding the predisposal factors that push people into gambling addiction. And one of the major things that I picked out of that is poverty. The pervasive poverty in Nigeria over the last decade has driven people to extremes and into things that they ordinarily wouldn't do. This is a very monetized culture where we believe that if you don't have money, if you don't have a certain amount of wealth, you are pretty much nobody. You would see primary school kids, secondary school kids, walk by a car lot, get on their knees and start praying in front of a Mercedes-Benz. And I'm thinking, what exactly does a 12-year-old or 13-year-old know about a Mercedes-Benz? But he's been conditioned to believe in this society that if he does not have that, he's pretty much nobody. And that is the problem that we need to tackle. People are looking for the next big thing. If I use 1,000, I can use 1,000 naira to make 10 million naira. I can have money and solve all my problems. We need to deal with these issues regarding pervasive poverty. This
So,
is
Koiki, I don't want you to go too far. You've just mentioned something I wanted to harp on here.
Okay.
Now, regarding the pay 10,000 naira, win 10 million naira, do you think that perhaps maybe regulation should also include that these prizes are somehow maybe limited so you do not cause people to think of the possibility of winning that great an amount of money from something as little as 10 naira? Do you think that that would be a good reform?
In another society, that would be challenged in the courts. The legality of whether you are infringing on the person's personal rights. They would say it is their money. They can do it.
But this is to the regulators now. This is to the regulators, as in if they can keep a cap on that winning.
I get that, but you can be very sure that the betting companies will fight back. They will take this to court. That you cannot limit exactly what. It's like you driving into a filling station. Can the filling station tell you exactly how much you're going to buy, how much fuel you can buy? No. It's pretty much what you are capable of paying. Whether you want to pay at you want to buy at 9.50 or you want to buy at 9.20, whether you want 50 gallons or whether you want 20 gallons, it's pretty much your prerogative. And that's what people are saying, that these things, it's pretty much, it's an educational thing. We really need to get to the very roots, continue to push it in the faces of people. Back in the day, you would see cigarette packs that had that writing on it, smokers are liable to die young. Now you have to probably start putting up signs somewhere that's saying that gambling addiction can lead to, I don't know, mental health challenges, or can lead to family ruin, or something. Something just has to give.
Perhaps, Koiki. Tunde Koiki, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. Also here in the studio, Dr. Bonjubola Abiri, thank you very much. And Peter and Paul, just one guy, thank you very much for joining us as well.
I wish we had enough time. I wanted to draw the intersection between our economic downturn as well and, the proliferation of gambling and how, whether or not it's gone a bit of impact. And also our moral decadence, how our younger, the vulnerable groups in terms of the underage gambling because of what they see on social media. But hey, there's always another time. We hope to have you join us again soon. Dr. Veer, always a date. Mr. Peter Paul, lovely to meet you.